here. I'll call the meeting to order. Oh, bear with me. So we're going to have adoption of the agenda. So before we do that, I would like to add in 8.1, the FCSS conference.
FCSS conference?
Yes. So any takers on adopting the agenda?
That's,
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, is it the same one?
Yep.
Okay,
If you're right, why don't you deal with that one?
the Halloween contest?
So 8.2, Halloween contest. Donna?
Yeah.
8.3 is an information item dealing with follow-up meeting with the Minister of the Environment and Protected Areas.
Can you turn your mic towards you?
Turn it on. So 8.3 would be meeting with Minister of Environment and Protected Areas.
Okay, so with those additions, Donna, would you like to adopt the agenda as presented?
I make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented with the 3 additions.
Okay, all those in favor? Carried. Going on to Fire Chief's report. Can we get a...
Delegations?
Well, prior to that,
Oh,
it's
yeah,
customary that
there's
we do
scheduled
the
delegation.
land acknowledgement.
So the land acknowledgement, we acknowledge the homeland of the many diverse First Nations and Métis people whose ancestors have walked this land since time immemorial. We are grateful to work, live, and learn on the territory of Treaty 8. Okay, so now we're at 2.1 scheduled delegations. Not seeing any public delegations.
Yes, Richard.
Not seeing any.
No comment.
3.1, the fire chief's report. Motion before we discuss. Sasha?
I'll move to receive, the council receive fire chief's report for September 2023 for information.
All right, Trevor, take her away.
Good evening, Council. Just a couple of highlights, I guess, to touch on here. This week is actually Fire Prevention Week. What activities that are kind of going on? I am doing a daily fire prevention tip of the week, so that will be going on Facebook every day, so you can check out the local Facebook page. Tomorrow we have our open house from 5 to 7. We will have some live demonstrations going on. Members will be doing some things there. I invite all council members to come out and have a look, wander through Fire Hall. We will be having hot dogs for visitors, and we also will have, well, actually I've engaged or tried to engage the schools. So far I've got one teacher that came today with some coloring artistic things from the kids, so we're going to evaluate them, and then there'll be some prizes for them. Hopefully I get some others from the other schools, but that's the deadline is basically tomorrow for them. So that's kind of what's going on, and like I said, the rest of the week I'll have Facebook posts for fire prevention tips. Got a notification on Friday that Next Gen 911 is going live today. So today was the first day that they are officially saying Next Gen is active. Kind of an exciting but confusing, I guess, point, because not sure exactly what we're going to be getting. So I'm sure there'll be growing pains with the dispatching system. Not that it's going to fail, but just information that's going to come across, because there's things that they're doing that are changing. So I'm sure there'll be some learning curve to it, and hopefully it will better serve us and the communities. Closing out some outstanding inspection files. The building property owners are actually moving forward with things, so that's a positive thing. And also continuing on with inspections on building properties within the town. We are looking at organizing, and actually our corporate Christmas party that we held last year, tickets will be available soon. As I indicated in my report, unfortunately, our event is December 2nd, and in which Hyper Light Up event is December 1st. So conflicting times, but we had to have the venue booked a year in advance. So unfortunately, that is what happened. And I will be preparing for the budget committee review of the fire department coming shortly, probably end of the month, I'm speculating. So I'll be preparing documents for that for presentation to the council members for approval for the 2024 budget year.
So if I could just interrupt the chief for a minute. As council's aware, the next meeting will be both a council meeting and an organizational meeting. So we won't be scheduling those budget meetings until after the organizational meetings, because it's likely the reps on the subcommittees will be changing. So they will likely be late October or early November for those budget committee meetings, which is really the library, the recreation, and the fire department's budgets.
Thank you. That is my report. Submit my report to council if you have questions.
Thank you for that. So, a couple of questions, please. So what were the top issues as identified in that interagency meeting that you've?
Nothing really, top issues. What we did do is we discussed the AFRAC system and how it is serving our community, and if there's improvements that could be considered and made. That was more or less it, and then we just discussed what's kind of going on with each sort of agency and how it kind of plays along with the rest of us.
Okay, thank you. And so what were the criteria for that grant, that first grant that you applied for? It's the Alberta Government Fire Training Grant. So just wondering when you think you'd hear back and what the criteria was.
The submission date was September 30th, and I'm not sure exactly when we'll hear back, but it is for the 2024 year, so starting April 1st. So they have lots of time to have a look at the applications. But basically the process was simplified. We needed to identify training goals that had to meet requirements. We had to identify an instructor and also an approximate cost of the training that we were going to be undertaking.
If I could, I believe the total provincial allocation is roughly 500,000.
Yeah.
So it's likely that means the grants that are submitted, around 5 to 10% will be funded of those that are submitted.
Okay, so finally, I'm not sure if I heard you correctly. I know there's that light up that on December 1st. Did I hear you say that the Christmas party is December 2nd?
Yes.
So why can't we do light up on the 1st?
We are setting up the venue.
Thank you.
So I have a couple questions. So you do commercial inspections. Have you ever been approached to do private inspections on fire safety in homes? And is that even a possibility?
Private inspections. As a safety codes officer, I have jurisdiction in public facilities and buildings. I don't actually have jurisdiction to enforce code in private dwellings.
No, not that you would go there, but if a private citizen would come and say, hey, you know, I just finished my basement, can you come check it out? What do you think?
Yeah, I could do that, yeah.
Okay. And my other question is, were you funded through the government for the wildfires? Did you
Yes.
get- Okay. Okay, very good.
Just point out to council on that first question, if council wished to explore that, then I would ask that an RFD be prepared, because that would change the service levels the fire department would incur. As we know, the chief only works 3 days a week. That would have implications on his existing mandate as the fire chief. So if council's wishing to pursue that, could you please request a report?
No, it was just a general question if he had ever received private
No.
residents asking.
No.
Okay. So, not seeing any further questions. We move to receive the fire chief's report for information. All those in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I gotta do this. Now we're moving on to 5.1, the minutes from September 12th, regular meeting. Motion.
I'll move that we approve the minutes from September 12th as presented.
Did anyone notice any errors or omissions?
Donna?
I just have a question. Under the scheduled delegations, like, we had Mr. Rudolph, but, unless I'm mistaken, but the staff sergeant didn't show up, but yet he's listed under the scheduled delegation, so to me, that looks like he was present. So, I mean, all we would have to do is add absent or something in there, is my only question.
It'd be appropriate that there was no presentation provided, or no attendance. Sorry.
As amended.
Okay, all those in favor? It's carried. We're going to 6, business arising. Any business arising? Seeing none. Moving on to 7.0, public hearings. We don't have any public hearings. So moving on to 8.1, FCSS conference. And being that I added that, I'll explain. So FCSS is having their annual conference November 22nd to the 24th. And I was contacted to see if I'd be attending. And I said I could not promise because we haven't had our organizational meeting yet, so I did not know if I would remain on the FCSS committee. So that being said, we missed out on, there's a subsidy that FCSS can apply for 2 members of council to attend the conference and be subsidized for their lodging and the registration. So the conference is going to be held November 22nd and 24th. So keeping in mind that once the organizational meeting has been confirmed and someone has been appointed to that committee, you may or may not still be able to attend. So the manager of FCSS wanted a couple of names, so I said, go ahead and put me down for the FCSS representative, but there's no guarantee that I would be on it. So you may see in the future an RFD to approve 2 members to attend the FCSS conference.
And where is it being held?
It's in Edmonton. Yeah, it's always in Edmonton. So with that being said, now we're moving to make a motion.
I just had a question about that. What was the cutoff for that subsidy?
September 28th.
Well, of course it was. I think just as a point, I think that going forward, if you're asked about that, you can say, you know, because as a member of that committee, you're authorized to go to those conferences already. And if the organizational meeting is getting in the way, just say High Prairie representative. They wanted an actual name?
Yeah, I said, put down 2 counselors for the town of High Prairie, and they want actual names on the registration. And usually when you get appointed to the FCSS committee, it's a commitment of 2 years. So,
Just the way it felt.
so with that being said, we'll have a motion for the FCSS conference to receive for information. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to 8.2, the Halloween contest.
It's getting to that time again. I think I'm not sure what year this is. I think the 6th or 7th or something. I can't remember. And it's somewhat time sensitive in the sense that our next meeting's not until like the 20-something. So I guess my question is, do we want to go forward with it this year? Or do we want to not do it this year? And if we are going to do it, then we should have the rules set out and placed on our website and on our Facebook page to let people know what the categories are, etc. Usually it's Constable Bloom who hands out the little placards that get put on the person, the winning homeowner's yard. Being that he's by himself now, we're down to just him. I don't know if he has the time to do that. So that's why I'm wondering if we should forego it for this year, or does council want to continue on doing it? Is my question.
So would you like to make a motion on that so we can debate it?
Donna, make the motion that we go ahead with the contest as per usual, and then we can debate it. Because your motion has to be, you can't make a negative motion.
Right.
So make the motion that council proceed with the Halloween contest as per usual.
All right.
And we go from there.
Okay, I make a motion that the town of High Prairie participates in the annual Halloween decorating contest as usual.
Go ahead, James.
Well, we can ask Alan if he's got time to do that. Sis back there still? Yeah. Would you, if Alan is too busy to hand out the placards for the Halloween contest, would you or one of your deputies be willing to to do so, or you guys got a full plate?
Sorry, I was reading this and not paying attention. You kind of threw me under the bus.
Ah, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just, Shannon may have to help me here, because I can't remember how the judging occurred last year, was it? Because that's the problematic area, how we're gonna manage the judging, who's gonna judge.
I think it was people would send in their nominated pictures to the town and they would be placed on the Facebook page, and then depending on what category they were nominated to, like traditional, scary, I can't remember what all the categories are, and then based on the number of votes they received by what was pictures that were shared, that was how it was determined who won for that category.
So if that's the case, administratively, it's not gonna be a big challenge, it's just a matter of having the emails go to the right email address, and placing of the signs is not a big deal. So, if council wishes to proceed on that basis, we can advertise and, get it out there and, have the link to do the voting. The placement of the signs on individuals' homes is not a big deal, so we can manage that.
I think it's a good idea to continue with it. People spend a lot of time and money on it, and it's, makes a community thing, so you drive around and you look to see. That's my thoughts on it. Anybody else?
I think it's a good community spirit, and like you say, it's an event for the whole town, whole community as a whole, so, yeah, I agree.
All right, so based on that discussion, we are voting on a motion to continue on with the Halloween contest as set out in our guideline for the contest. Question or voting? All in favor? And it's carried. Moving on to 8.3, meeting with the minister.
So right now, this is a information item, but I know people's calendars book up quickly. So I will follow up with an email, but October 25th, between 1 and 1:30, we'll be having a virtual meeting with the Minister of Environment and Protected Areas. So I'll be sending out an email to say who wishes to attend, and if you do, whether you want to do it remotely or whether you're attending the meeting virtually from the council chamber. So
What time did you say?
October 25th,
Yeah.
1 to 1:30. And we'll be, well, the minister already has the briefing note, but I'll recirculate the briefing note on the, I believe it was 3 items we had for the ministry, or council had for the Minister of the Environment.
Okay, so with that being said, we have a motion to receive for information a meeting with the Minister of Environment on October 25th via Zoom. All those in favor? Motion is carried.
You can mark me down as attending from council chambers, because I'm free that day.
So moving on to 9.1, the operating variance and capital project summary as of September 30th, 2023. Can I get a motion on that one? Is that you, John? Do you want to make the motion? Great.
All right. The 800,000 received related to ICF funding contributions from Big Lake County be contributed to the following reserves: water 200,000, sewer 200,000, and recreation 400,000. That's the 250,000 from unanticipated revenue inflows or major under expenditures related to municipal infrastructure be continued to the following reserves: equipment pool 100,000 and roads 150,000. That's 75,000 from operating projects approved but not completed be contributed to unrestricted reserves. That the approved 2023 budget and funding sources for the Moose Tooth parking lot project be consolidated into the 52nd Avenue project, and that the project for the truck fill system be increased by $25,000 with the necessary funds being provided from the unrestricted reserve.
Thank you, John. So, CAO, would you like to walk us through this?
I believe presenter is really anxious to move in percent, so I'll pass it on to Shanda. Of course, I may be making a comment or two as Shanda refers items to me.
So good evening, everyone. What you have in front of you is the Q3 report, which includes the months of January until the end of September, in which you will see a net forecasted revenue expenditure year-end result is an unadjusted surplus of approximately 1.3 million. So administration is recommending that the unadjusted surplus be adjusted for the following reasons: unbudgeted ICF revenue inflows, unexpected revenue flows, contributions to fund 2023 special projects that were not completed. The table on page 13 details the recommended adjustment to the unadjusted surplus to better reflect the actual operating results for the municipality. So if you go to your table on page 13, you'll see the unadjusted surplus of approximately 1.3. We want to transfer to reserves to fund capital expenditures of 800,000. Unanticipated revenue inflows or major under expenditures related to municipal infrastructure. Additional provisions related to capital reserves, 250,000. And operating projects approved but not completed for 75,000. Which gives you an adjusted operating surplus of 239,934. So this adjusted surplus represents a 2% overall variance on the operating budget. This projected variance is primarily the result of the receipt of increased interest earnings on the town's funds, ongoing vacancies within the organization, and minor expenditure variances. All programs are being delivered within the service levels approved in the 2023 operating budget. You will notice in Appendix A that the variance at the end of September is higher, showing a year-to-date surplus of 1.7 million. This is due to timing differences in revenues and expenditures and the unbudgeted ICF receipts of approximately 800,000. On page 14 and 15, you have a more detail on the significant forecasted variances, with the major contributors again being higher interest earnings on the town funds, position vacancies, regional funding transfers, and other minor variances. So that is for Appendix A. And I don't know if Bill, you want to elaborate on the ICF?
I can. Again, the ICF is a big number, and then again, that money related to the ICF relates to the capital contributions the county makes. All the operating budget contributions for fire, recreation are provided in the operating budget. In past years, the county has not necessarily provided funding related to capital. This year, they've agreed to provide that funding based on negotiations. At the time the budget was put together, that was still unclear what direction the county would take. So they have now confirmed, and they've actually paid the 800,000. So we have it in our account. Given that it has to go now to the capital funding for capital projects, it has to be transferred to the reserves. So generally, those type of unexpected revenues are shown as an operating budget revenue, artificially because we need to transfer it to the capital reserve, and we need a council resolution to make that transfer. So that's why the money's showing in the operating budget now, but it shouldn't be there. But we need a resolution of council to move it to where it should be. So that's why it's really changing the overall surplus significantly, because of that surplus, half of it is because of this one item. Shanda has reviewed some of the other ones. Again, for greater clarity, our interest earnings are going to be approximately 160,000 over budget. Salaries and benefits being underspent by roughly 250,000. So those three items combined make up predominantly the bulk of the surplus. Again, interest earnings because of higher interest rates, more proactive management of the cash of the town. And unfortunately, we've had staff turnover, and we haven't been able to fill certain positions. So that's resulted in a favorable variance in the operating statement. So that in a nutshell is what's created the operating surplus. Again, there's a bunch of minor items. Some of them are good news, some of them are bad news. Doesn't necessarily mean we can adjust the budget. And I'll give you an example. The province during this fiscal year is not imposing the provincial fuel tax on gasoline. Well, who knows what they will be doing in 224 related to that revenue source. So again, we'll be preparing the budget based on best known policy, all those type of things, but we would be not reducing the budget by that amount because it's really a one-time windfall in 223, and there's other items such as training both on council side and on administration side. Given the challenges and workflows, some of the planned events, the number of attendees attending wasn't as high as in previous years, so there will be some savings, but those are sort of core items in the budget that have to be maintained. Other than that, if there's any specific questions, please direct them to the other. The other end of the table.
Okay, we'll move on to Appendix B, which is the capital project summary. So to date, all capital projects are within budget, with 2 projects, 52nd Ave and the Lagoon Outfall, showing an expected savings totaling $396,000, with an overall total expected savings of $440,000. So that number is a little bit different on your report because we caught that after the fact. On all 17 projects, these projects will all be reconciled prior to the consideration of the 2024 budget deliberations. So administration is recommending 2 adjustments to the approved 2023 projects. Number 1 being to consolidate the approved budget for the Moose Tooth parking lot, which is $75,000, with the 52nd Ave project. This component was included in the overall tender related to 52nd Ave, and there are no financial implications related to this request. Number 2 would be the truck fill project was budgeted at $35,000, which included the cost of the software hardware component of the truck fill system. However, upgrades to the electrical and physical structures at the water plant will be required to be undertaken. These components were not anticipated in the original budget. The additional cost related to these components and systems requires an additional funding of $25,000. Given the overall under expenditure anticipated in all the 2023 capital projects, this variance can be accommodated within the approved funding envelope. That's all I have. If you have any questions?
Anyone?
What was that number change again?
440,800. I actually, I do have new sheets with that number on it that I can pass out.
So I have a question on the lagoon.
Okay.
So is that project actually complete?
The lagoon outfall or the dredging?
The dredging.
So they were just waiting for some crops to be taken off, and then it will be complete, which will only take about 1 or 2 days.
So if I could just add, yes, the dredging is fully complete. The application, land application of what they dredged isn't fully completed. But there's roughly 10 to 20% of the solids that still have to be land applied. So it's just an issue of when the crops are off, that balance will be applied to the land. But the dredging itself and all work in the lagoon was completed 6 to 8 weeks ago.
Thank you. Anyone else? Not seeing any more questions. We will now vote on John's motion. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you for your report, Shanda.
Thank you.
Oh. Bear with me here. So we are moving on to staff and CAO reports. Can I get a motion for CAO's report and action list? Councillor Yashishin?
The council received CAO Bill McKinnon's report and action list for information.
Thank you. CAO, can you walk us through that one?
Sure can, through the chair. Again, it's short report this month. Onboarding with new IT vendor continues. Every week we have an update meeting with the vendor to talk about issues that may be developing. The good news story is today we sort of completed the rollout of the internet services for the key facilities within the town, including the Sports Palace. The good news is they're all Wi-Fi services. The vendor has graciously provided double the speed at a lower cost for the town, so that's a good news story. In terms of the fire department specifically and the arena complexes, they will be providing complimentary Wi-Fi for the patrons and the volunteer firefighters in those 2 locations, and some half-decent pricing, which is more than we're currently paying, but again, their service that we'll be getting will be at speeds 10 to 30, 40 times higher than our current service. In addition to that, in terms of the IT support vendor, they've been holding back on a few upgrade projects until the high speed's in. For instance, we currently do tape backups, where an employee physically runs a tape backup, takes that tape home. Once we have the high-speed internet, that won't be required. We'll be backing up off-site. So there will be some savings there for sure. Again, at the last council meeting, council passed the resolutions relating to banking services. That was the easy part. Now we've got to get all the data. So Shanda or myself will be calling on you to fill out enrollment cards, signature cards, and all that bureaucracy over the next couple of weeks, but that's going on. And just an update, and it relates to the same party, which is a good thing. We had a third on-site meeting with under the rural entrepreneurial stream with the individual that's setting up business here in town. He will actually be back in town this week to finalize some of the movements on that program. So the next step under that program would be the town, i.e. myself, would be writing a recognition letter saying what you're attempting to do in your business, you're relocating into the town, would be added value to the existing businesses within the town, and it would all be great. So again, it's a service trade related product that this individual will be providing within the town. And the budget preparations continues. By the next meeting, we'll have a list of proposed budget dates for council consideration. Be similar to last year's process, likely 2 meetings before Christmas and maybe 1 meeting after Christmas. And again, that's all predicated on hopefully some new provincial announcements, but we'll wait and see. So that concludes my report.
Any questions? Go ahead, Donna.
So are we still with Trinus or not with Trinus anymore?
We terminated our agreement with Trinus probably 3 months ago now.
Oh, okay. Because I don't know if anybody else, but I still get in the other box, I still get Trinus
Yeah, and
emails.
if you don't want to get them, if you look at those emails, you'll see unsubscribe at the
okay.
bottom. And
Okay.
you can unsubscribe. Some of the information they're still providing is useful in terms of tips.
Okay,
And the like, so you will be getting, again, counselors are only on for limited segment, i.e. emails. So you're not getting the full breadth of emails that, and support and training. Staff are
Right,
getting
yeah.
emails saying, you
Yeah.
must do this training by this date.
right, yeah,
And you must reset your emails, and you must do this, and you must do that. And so that it's more robust for the staff per se.
Go ahead, James.
When will the Wi-Fi and the high-speed be in at the arena?
We are attempting to expedite, and that's,
Will it be in on Sunday?
no,
Okay.
right? Optimistically, if it's in by the end of the month, that would be very optimistic. But we're looking to expedite it as quickly as we can.
Thank you.
Will that include the library, Bill, do you know?
The library has their own service provider, so it's not within the purview of this. But if the library's interested, and same thing with the museum or any other organization, for instance, we met with the curling club and made them aware that they could piggyback on the town's pricing if they wished.
I do know the library has a provincial server that is second to none. Like, so I have a question on our new IT or vendor. Emails are not going through. I know that the mayor is trying to send me emails and they're not coming through.
If you have any service issues, can you please email me? But again, it may have nothing to do with our provider, it may be your connection. So again, you're really not on the town's IT system. We're facilitating a link through our email system only. So it depends on what's happening at your end versus what's happening at our server end. So there have been some issues, and there will be continuing to be some issues because the version of our security on our system is roughly 4 generations behind. So until we get the high-speed internet, we need to upgrade that security and the protocols related to that security. And that will address some of the issues, but we're never going to stop all the issues. So if you're having issues, we can tell us, here's the email I sent, forward it to us, and then we can see where it went through, and the IT vendor can basically backtrack it, what network it hit, what walls, where the issue was caused. So we
Okay.
need specifics to deal with solutions, so.
Okay, because, yeah, I know that the mayor has mentioned in a council meeting or through email that he's been trying to send out an evaluation and it has not come through to me.
So that
Yeah.
particular issue had nothing to do with the IT service. It was licensing related to SurveyMonkey. That was the tool he was trying to use, and the licensing for that was expired. And that was the issue. It had nothing to do with the email system. It was, so as you change vendors on any of these situations, you really need to refresh and look at, do we really have a license for this or not? So that's the stuff we've been dealing with over the last month. That some of the products that we've been using we may not have been fully licensed for it. So then it's update the licenses, update the protocols. You know, when you're with one company for that length of time, some of their protocols may slip, and certain attentions aren't paid to certain issues that are somewhat critical. Now, when a new vendor comes on, they don't want to take the liability of others. They don't want to inherit liability, so they're more proficient in looking at these type of issues.
Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. Thank you. So, no more questions? We have a motion on the table to receive for information. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Moving on to moving on to 14.1. We have council information correspondence. Can I get a motion on that? James, go ahead.
I'll move that council pay the rent from the special, the fund, what the hell is it called? You know what I'm talking about. The sponsorship fund. I'll move that we pay it out of that. I'll just take it out of mine, if council's good with that. That way we're not doing math. Community grants. Yes, out of the community grants program that we have.
Okay, so your motion is gonna read that you would like to pay the 232 and 0.01 cent for the rent.
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor? Motion is carried. Now moving on to 16.1, council reports.
Oh, missed one.
Did I?
The Legion.
Oh. Could I get a motion on that? John would like to make that motion.
I move to accept the letter from the Royal Canadian Legion as presented for information.
Okay,
Did we authorize somebody to go with that?
it's open to everyone. It's an open invitation. Oh, it is not.
No, it's.
No.
See, Richard? So yeah, just if you wanna amend your motion to authorize the mayor or deputy mayor,
Or anyone.
or anyone to come to speak, cause if you can't make it, if Brian can't make it, then.
Exactly.
So I will amend the motion to ask for somebody to give their name as representing the community.
Okay.
Usually it's the mayor. I don't know.
Yeah, I know, but we can't speak for him, so,
Well, just make it for the mayor or designate,
Yeah,
because we'll have a
Yeah.
meeting or two before
Yeah,
that, so.
there you go, that's the best way to do it.
okay, John?
Good to go.
Okay.
So, let's vote. All those in favor? Motion is carried. We are now moving on to councillor reports, and 16.1, starting with Councillor Danaka.
Since our last meeting, we had the museum meeting in September. And basically we just discussed the bench show and the success, the bench show.
I heard it too.
And the success and the feedback that we were given. Darlene's working on the 2024 budget. And the next, of course, like most of us, we're at the AUMA. Busy 3 days. Took in a couple sessions. The first one, Laughing Matters. Personally, I didn't learn anything new out of that one. Everybody kind of knows that humor makes life less stressful, etc., etc., etc. I will say, though, that on both days, the opening ceremonies with the keynote speakers, the first day, Kendall Netmaker, I felt that the stuff he talked about and how to communicate was sort of an eye-opener in terms of how the Indigenous people communicate is related to how we communicate by emails and phone calls, and probably answered the questions of why we're getting no response when we send emails, because that's not how they work. They are more face-to-face people, so if we want to engage them, we need to go there and say hi and introduce ourselves and make that face-to-face contact. The second day speaker, Bean Gill, discussed how disabilities play into the world and how people can make things easier by paying attention to what they're doing in regards to people with disabilities, parking spots, use of bathrooms, etc., etc. Then we all went out for supper with Drew on Thursday night, which was great. It was nice for him to do that. Talked to different counselors through being out in the smoke section and just wandering around. Talked to different counselors, and I mean, every year you when you meet them and you discuss, there's always similar issues that everybody deals with, but it was really forefront this year where a lot of the small communities like us are really struggling with affordable housing and rural health, and more so than at any time. And a lot of the smaller communities, in discussing their issue of affordable housing, and especially for the ones that I talked to, were communities like Bowden and Daysland and Caroline. And they're these small communities nestled next to like Red Deer, Rocky Mountain House. So basically, with their lack of affordable housing to attract people to their community, people are navigating and migrating to, of course, the bigger centers, like Red Deer, like Rocky Mountain House, because even though they might be 10 minutes away from those places, the housing market just isn't there to sustain that. So there was those issues that were pretty much common throughout everything. We met with the transportation. Councillor Stenhouse sort of took the lead on that without the mayor being there, and led us through the discussions. I mean, yeah, it was nice to meet, but when you have one guy that you're meeting with saying, if I remember correctly, this is my last day here, so why did we even bother meet with him when he's moving on to wherever he's moving? And unfortunately, I couldn't attend the meeting that popped up on Friday, so I'm looking forward to hearing what and how that transpired. So other than that, I move my verbal report for information.
Any questions? All those in favor? Motion carried. Councillor Dunn.
So again, I want to make sure everyone is aware, Thursday at 1 o'clock. Thursday at 1 o'clock, if you have the time, and I know Councillor Martins will be there, at the Big Lakes Chambers. We are going to be discussing, we aren't going to be discussing, there's going to be information provided on going from a authority to a commission for the waste management. So instead of being a regional authority, we'll become a commission, and the impact, what that's about, the reasons for it, how it impacts us as a community, and so on. So that's Thursday, October 12th at 1 o'clock. And then I was at the Children's Resource Council. They held an open house and well attended, over 120 people, and speaks to the fact that, I mean, in the past when they've had them, they didn't offer food, but they just wanted to get the information out around their resources. You don't do that when you only get 10, 15 people coming. And so Null had put on, it was a mix of food from the Philippines as well as some of the food from different countries and stuff, and then burgers, typical Canadian food. And yeah, over 120 people came, lots of things. They had an abundance of clothes and stuff, and so they were giving, they were selling the clothes for $5 a bag, a garbage bag, and lots of people coming in. There's an influx of not just Ukrainians, but Mennonite from, down by Mexico. No, not Costa Rica. It starts with a B. Not Brazil either. Belize. Thank you, Belize. And they had come up, had heard Canada's a place to be. They got here and there was nothing for them. Like that's, and so they have been just, people have been coming. A lot of people have surrounded them and are, coming to their, helping out wherever. A lot of it's around language, not being able to communicate stuff. So, so that's pretty awesome, and again, a good job by the CRC in doing that. And then we attended the meeting, and that's more of just policy, and we're going to be rewriting policy in some areas and stuff. So that's timely, or taking time as well. Again, I attended the convention, and some of the benefit for me, as Dawn has already mentioned, I went to Laughing Matters as well. What I got out of that, yeah, it's good for emotions, it's good, but there is also the capacity, when you laugh together, you bond together. And I think one of the things that I've seen, not just because people say it, but I've seen it in the organization that I work with, is when people laugh together, your creativity goes way up, and you figure out things in a different way than if you're just structured and all you think about is what you were taught, and you don't go outside of the box as much. So one of the things that came through, they didn't really say that, but as I was listening, it's going, yeah, that rings true for me in terms of the bonding. That's what they did talk about, is how people bond. But for me, then it was just seeing the creativity that takes place in people as you laugh together and stuff. So that was one. Went to the Code Blue, municipalities in the rescue of healthcare, and a lot of questions, and just, I guess for me, walking away from that, I went, okay, what do we do as a community? And I think we actually, as a small community, I think that we are advanced in terms of some of the things that we're doing and, the things that Teresa and Sasha are involved in and they, they talked about how those type of things make it more appealing for professionals to come to our community and that. I then went to, well, and again, the not the breakout sessions, the main sessions were incredible. They had two really good speakers. Appreciated that. Won't focus on that because Donna did a good job. Then I went to the Alberta Munis Woman in, no, I never. I went to this council CEO bargain, and Bill had a lot of support there. And so and that's basically what they talked about is just how do the CAO and the council work together to best represent your community and for the best results for the community as well. And yeah, and I think that was pretty, and then I did attend the 4:30 meeting at the Ledge. Really appreciative to see Scott there. He came, he made the effort to show up. Got there a little late, but he was there, and that way was able to hear our concerns and also express to the minister, I can't remember his name. Pardon me? Yeah, to Marty Long, exactly where, I mean, he listened, what I liked is he listened to us and gained our input and then sort of put it in political terms back to Marty Long, wouldn't you say? Yeah. So those are some of the things out of the convention in that week, end of the week, that I felt were really beneficial and contributed to my growth as a counselor. I present my report for information.
Any questions? All those in favor? Motion carried. Councillor Martin.
It's hard to follow these tough acts with Councillor Danaka and Councillor Dunn, but because I have a lot of the same things, but I'll start with some of the things that are different. I attended the walk on October 4th that was hosted by the Friendship Center, and I'm sure there was other conjoining bodies, but it was the walk to recognize the missing and murdered Indigenous women, children, peoples. There was this lovely singer from Drift Pile that opened the ceremonies. They had a smudge, then she closed with a song that really was meant to help you go forward if you just were struggling, and it was very well done. The RCMP and Lakeshore led the walk, and they had a little route through town, and it was well attended, and I think they had hot chocolate after. We also were able to lay our fingerprints on that little crosswalk, and there was some great attendance, so it was nice to see. That was October 4th. Additionally, the Lesser Slave Watershed Council met last month. Operational updates, they talked about the monitoring programs and updates there. Our executive director there is fantastic. She keeps us in check. They actually have the WPAC is meeting this weekend. What else is going on? Yeah, I mean, I have a whole agenda, but those were some of the highlights. One of the things I wanted to add to Councillor Dunn's report for the Alberta Municipalities event, I attended one of the same sessions. They did, in the first one, John, the first morning, they did mention there was really how council can best effectively communicate with the CAO, set expectations clearly. That is the make or break success benchmark. For all of council on October 13th, so Friday, October 13th, this coming Friday, there was a new study published, and there's a webinar. You can all go register, and it kind of expands on that session. So just a reminder. Now, with respect to the MLA Long and our MLA Sinclair being there, he's heard the message twice. So I happened to go to the meeting when Scott Sinclair was in town last couple of weeks ago. He was
20th of September.
That's it, that's the date. So he's heard the same thing, you know, the helipad, cancer therapies, recruitment, retention, housing for the health professional staffing. I don't believe that at that meeting there were any other updates as far as the land acquisition, but it was brought up, but there was nothing further. Yeah, the meeting with MLA Long was casual. It was the last thing that Friday. He didn't want to look at briefing notes. He said, "I just want to talk to you guys, so talk to me." And you know, it was a good hour. And I asked him about a hard stop, and he said, "Nope, we'll go as long as we need to." He's from the north, so he understands the north zone. They did talk about decentralizing, as far as I heard, but there were no details. I asked about the former minister's 10-point plan that was presented by Minister Copping. Now with Minister LaGrange taking over, the Premier had mentioned that on October 4th, they were going to have a 4-hour meeting because AHS and health services was such a big, predominant topic for a lot of us in rural communities. Those were some of the things. What else? Oh, and last week there were some new nurses, so I had the pleasure of going to the residence, meeting one that had just arrived, and I sent them. They were looking for housing, so a community member actually sent a 2-bedroom listing. I forwarded that on. I've been in touch with all three. All three are new. One was a day she just arrived. The other 2 were about a month, and the 1 month and 2 months respectively. But they've got some really good. One was a charge nurse, one was a cardiac standing nurse, one had ER experience. So there's a lot of talent behind these nurses. While they're new to our community, they're not new in the profession. So it was good to meet all 3 of them. I think I've included a lot. I think with that, if there's any questions, I move my verbal report for information.
It's nice that we're getting some experience, not just the rookies.
So, no questions? All in favor? Motion's carried. So my report, you have my written report in front of you. This is just a small snapshot of the busy 3 days we've had. So something that at the trade show that I'd like to add in, it's actually, there was a Canada Post booth and I stopped there and talked to her, and it's actually about rural post office. And according to her map, they have Gruard on the chopping block and Jussard is in the warning area of closing down rural post offices. And I know that this is for the rural, but what happens in the rural also will affect the town. And so at this Canada Post booth, she gave me the rundown of what's happening and gave me some of these flyers. I already filled one out, and what they are is they're just a postcard. There's no postage needed. And these postcards are, we're going to flood the federal government to stop them from closing down rural post offices. Some of the rural post offices that have been closed is either the municipality has to take it on and fund it, or they just have those roadside boxes. So that's all I have to add to my written report. There's just so much more. I guess another on a side note is met with Swan Hills. First time to meet them, they were actually shocked, and it's like we're just neighbors and we don't know who each other is, yet we'll travel to Edmonton to meet each other. That I said, well, you know, maybe sometimes we should set up a casual lunch or something with Swan Hills and meet with them because they have the same issues as us. So when I first seen our package to go to the conference, I thought, oh, this is a waste of time. We're not going to see. Why are we coming here? We don't have any minister meetings scheduled. But actually, I gathered a lot of information through the educational sessions and through the networking, like everyone has said. We've talked to other communities and how they're dealing with stuff. So it actually turned out to be a very good conference. At one of the networking, as you can see, I spoke with a couple ministers, Brian Jean, our MLA, and this Nikki Guglin. And my main message to them was, don't forget, rural Alberta puts you in power, not Edmonton and Calgary. So that was about it. I move my written and verbal report for information. All in favor? Motion carried. Now we move on to Councillor Royko.
The library board met, actually just last week, put together the budget that will be forwarded to the town, and they had some other concerns that I've talked with the CAO about, and those are going to be addressed, so that was good there. Library is going great guns, their programming is full, and it is the book sale right now, so if you don't have enough books in your house, you can put more in there. I think I'm banned from buying books by my family. So many. But that's one of their main fundraisers is the overstock, and conversely to that, if you're like me and have a book addiction and want to thin some of that out, they will take those on donation and then flip them for, to help fund the library. So there's that. And then of course went to the Alberta Municipalities meeting, and I swear to God I'm going to call it AUMA probably till the day I die. I want to commend administration for the hotel. It was easy to get to and close enough that it was convenient and easy to park in there, so thank you for that. I attended, I can't remember the name of the session. Can I borrow your book for a second, Teresa? Because there was this, I don't have my notes in front of me. One of the first sessions that I attended, it was just amazing the information that I got out of it. God, I wish I had my notes. Okay, I can't find it there. But they talked about crime and the issues and the fact that nobody grows up thinking this is what I want to do. The fact that I think he said it's over 80% of inmates in the prison system, they were victims first. So, and everything is so interconnected. The horrible things that have been done to some people, and when it's done to you as a child, which the vast majority of these people it has been, that breaks them. And to break the cycle, slamming people into rehab and slamming people into jail, that's not necessarily the answer. You gotta fix the problem, and it's a generational problem, it's a systematic problem, and it's gonna take everybody, all three levels of government, and the public, and the private sector. It's going to take everybody to fix. It was heartbreaking to hear this former Edmonton Police or RCMP, I can't remember which one he was, a former police officer talking about the tragedies that people have gone through, and it really opened my eyes to a lot of things. So that was a good one. The transportation meeting that we had, the one guy, he's, I'm done on Friday, and the other guy, I'm just filling in. So, but one thing that they did mention was that they're trying to put the highway through town here onto the plan to get it in for 2025 or after. We'll see. So I appreciated that. I also reminded them not to forget about 50th Avenue, because if they're not going to let trucks turn here, and why would they? Because the lights get taken out every time. If they're going to divert them through a residential area, when we need to upgrade that, don't forget. They're like, well, that's a good idea. I also mentioned to them to maybe consider buying this Esso lot and, you know, utilizing that into making it so you can make that corner. Well, there's environmental issues there. You think? I really think that ultimately that's the best use for that, is get transportation to buy it, and then just have like a merge onto 749. The trade show was really one of the highlights. One of the things that I found in there was this thing called, I think it was the Man Van. Was that what they called it, John? You know what I'm talking about. It's a mobile prostate exam thing, and I really think that this is something that we should look at partnering with the county and with our neighbors, the Peavine, Sucker Creek, Gift Lake, everybody, just see, because I think they're based out of Calgary, and that, so getting them to come up here is going to cost some money, but like prostate cancer can get you, and when you're past 50, that's sort of when you have to start thinking about such things. So John and I were talking a little bit about this, and he figured, you know, the gun show would be a great time to bring this up. So I'm gonna dig out the information that I've got in the bag there and see about partnering, hopefully, with our neighbors to make that happen, because really, where are you going to find more men in one place? Maybe the rodeo, you know, one of the two. And I also stopped by and said hi to the guys from Canadian Fiber Optic. While they were there, it was amusing, actually, because Barhead was talking to them just as I walked up, and as I'm walking up, the guy from Barhead is, yeah, but is it really that much better? And Johan's there, he's like, well, ask this guy, he'll tell you. So I pimped him up a little bit there, and Barhead's like, well, we'll give you a shout and we'll see. So all in all, just, and like the others said, the supper was much appreciated, and then I think I bored Donna to death as I talked all the way home. But it was a great learning experience, networking. A lot of people, as has been said, the issues that everybody has is the same. I know not meeting with ministers was frustrating, but we weren't the only one. There's the vast majority of communities that I talked to, they could not get a meeting with a minister. I know some people did, but by and large, and that part to me was disappointing, because in the olden days, the ministers flocked to this. They wanted to be seen, they wanted to talk to people, and now it's almost like, well, we don't necessarily want to be there so much. At least, you know, in the more formal settings. I guess you guys met up with them at some of the evening events, which is also fine. But, you know, all in all, a positive experience. And, yeah, that's my report. I'll move that for information.
Any questions?
Word salad.
I just have a comment on your report, James. I want to commend you for speaking about prostate cancer, because it is a concern with men, and we tend to discuss, we have a mobile van that does mammograms and stuff like that, but it is a concern with men, and they tend not to bring it to light. So I just want to commend you on speaking about that. So we have a motion for his report for information. All those in favor? Carried. And last but not least, Councillor Yushishin.
Greg, you want to talk about?
I'm not sure. I guess I'll just start out with on September 19th. We had, it was the FCSS meeting. We hadn't had one for a little while. The previous one before that was canceled. So that was good to be able to get together again there. Not really too much. Mostly we discussed was the conference coming up in November. And some of they went over some of the service updates. So they usually go over a lot of the statistics and the information that way. Again, the bus is used extensively in High Prairie. A lot of the numbers are fairly high with that, but it just shows that there is that need for that service in town. One of the, I guess not highlights, but one of the things just to bring up a little bit more was the person that they had for FCSS that goes around and it's not just cleaning or helping people clean residences. It's actually a visiting session a lot with the people that live alone and the older folks or folks that aren't able to do it themselves. The unfortunate thing is that person has left, so it leaves behind quite a big void for that position. So they're really hoping to be able to find that person again, or find a person again, but find that right person again. Not to say there's nothing wrong with the last person, they just had to leave for reasons. So so hopefully they'll be able to be able to do that there. And as Councillor Stenhouse brought up with the attending the FCSS conference in November. I too was at Alberta Municipalities. It was really good 3 days. It is a commitment to go for the 3 days because it's for most of the week. But really, it always, this would be my third one, and it really impresses upon me meeting with the big city councillors too, but with the like towns and communities there. And I think that's where when we talk about, and I think everybody mentioned the networking, I find is really valuable in that regard. I ran into the Athabasca folks when it was off the sessions, and we started talking about some of the concerns or some of the things we're working with, and one of the ones was the helipad coming up, or came up with the hospital. They too are looking and really pushing for that in their community. So it was very interesting to see what they have done, and they have found a success or two with that. So it was really good to be able to talk with them, and that might be some of the things that might work for us as well. So really beneficial to be able to, you're not that far away, but it's, we're pretty close in, especially some of the communities in population and in some of the same concerns there. I did attend 3 sessions, and a lot has been said already, so I'll make it kind of fairly brief, I guess. But I did attend the Digging Up Roots Causes of Social Disorder, an Evidence-Based Approach to Prevention and Resolution. It was a really good one to go to. It was full. It was actually full to capacity. So that really impressed upon me initially with it even starting that this was a big topic and something that everybody was relating to and is trying to work through and work with. So, it kind of told me, we're not alone. We heard a lot of examples, and Councillor Waco had mentioned, some of the root concerns and causes of that, and I guess more, I was looking for, okay, what is the solution to that? And it's difficult. It's many things. It's enhancing some of the supports. It's addressing them in the proper ways, and what the solutions are is how we have to, I think we can go about it a little bit better. So, just saying, pick you up and we don't want you in town is really not a solution, because they will go to the next town and then somebody else will come to ours. So I think more has to be done in that respect there. I did go to, which was something a little bit, just kind of changing angles here, was I went to Bright Light Small Town, attracting film productions to your municipality. And I thought, well, that's kind of different. And, you know, everybody associates that with South, you know, the Southern Alberta and mountains and the Rockies and whatever else, riding horses through town. And I'm thinking, I think we can ride a horse through town, maybe. Have a few hitching posts, you know, and that kind of thing. And but anyways, no, it was really good. It gave a really different angle for something. I guess I don't know if I want to call it a business. Well, business activity that can occur in your community. And what was interesting to me was, you know, they said, you know, people are looking, or they think that the film community is looking for, you know, certain new buildings or such things like that. And they said one of the biggest things is they'll film in I don't want to say a dirty backyard, but not backyard, back lane, but a back alley, you know. So they actually look for certain, you know, things like that, depending on what they're filming. And they can pop up anywhere. So, you know, you have to be that community that is, what's the word for it? Agile, maybe is the word. That if they're going to film 1 week in one neighborhood or one area of town, that's blocked off and that's closed. So, you know, the community has to be very accepting, you know, to that type of activity in town. But it impressed upon me is like I was saying, starting out to say, is there's a lot of opportunities with that. It just, is it the right place? Is it the right time or not? So, but that was a kind of a little different angle. The other one I went to was emergency management. It was pretty full too. It was a recap of the 2023 fire season, of course, and I don't know if there was almost any, well, maybe there was one, well, there wasn't any, I was gonna say any part of the province that really wasn't affected. The ones that didn't have really fires immediately were getting evacuees. So I think it's safe to say the whole province of Alberta and our neighboring provinces were involved in a pretty heavy fire season. They presented, or Edson presented, pretty much their collaboration and how they went about in that emergency situation, and the importance of not only the emergency services coming together, but the neighboring communities coming together as well. So there was a lot more on that, but it just really emphasized and impressed upon the fact that, you know, when we look into the future, there's going to be more years, hopefully not, but in some sense of emergencies. One thing with Edson was kind of a double thing there, because it was fire and then they had floods. So they kind of experienced from one extreme to the other, if it wasn't all extreme. But anyways, and just, I guess just another comment is, and I think Councillor Danaka said it well, I think everybody said it well, again, was you know, to have the opportunity to meet with the ministers is always really good. Sometimes, or not sometimes, a lot of the time you'll get 15 minutes, or you'll get 12 minutes and say goodbye for the remaining 2 minutes. What I found this time, we didn't necessarily meet directly with the ministers, but a good example was given already with transportation, when we can have a little bit more of a candid conversation with them taking that up, or our important things up to them. Big one with the highway through town with transportation was huge. You know, and I guess one of the things is, you know, the upgrade is great. It needs an upgrade. We all emphasize the fact that this is our main street. This is the street that is in the middle of our town. So its importance is great. But also not only that fact, but the maintenance of it. Like when they don't do a full upgrade, or when they're waiting to do a full upgrade, there is continuous maintenance, especially with our winters, that needs to happen. So, you know, I think that's important, is that, you know, okay, we got an upgrade coming in 5 years, but what are we doing when everybody's losing tires in between? So I think they really, I hope we got across that they need to enhance that maintenance part of it as well. The other one I was going to mention, which was mentioned already, was the health meeting with, and I'm not going to remember the name now. All right, and it was really good because again, we only have usually about that 10 to 15 minutes. There was Councillor Martins indicated that when we asked how much time we had, there really wasn't time. It was right at the very end of the day. I got lost on the 5th floor. I was looking for everybody there initially, so there was nobody there. I was going to start knocking on doors and slipping paper underneath the doors, the locked doors, to see if anybody was there. But it was really good with the fact that, again, it was a candid conversation that we had, and the ability to maybe speak a little bit, not freer, but more openly, I guess. So, you know, I think our concerns were, you know, well listened to, and hopefully we'll see something come of that there. Busy 3 days, so I'll end my report there. Any questions?
Just like to provide one clarification on Councillor Wakel's comment, congratulating him in on the booking those hotels. Actually, it was Councillor Recession that
Oh, really? Okay.
picked a hotel.
Good job.
I love the cookie.
The cookie made it, definitely. But it was suggestion of CAO as well.
I was just wondering if you want to talk a little bit about the conversation that we had with the people that work in terms of bringing communities together with Indigenous communities to work in a business sense. Did you get follow-up from them?
No, I didn't get much follow-up, but with the hope that we're going to get follow-up, I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah, so maybe that's something that could be brought back to.
Okay.
All right. So, all those in favor? Motion carried. Do we have any confidential items?
There is no confidential items, but I was remiss. Council has scheduled the committee of the whole meeting for this Saturday. There will be a couple of members that cannot make this Saturday. I'm recommending that we reschedule that meeting, given the amount of work it will take to get that happening for this Saturday. I can give you a couple updates. Talk to the people at Imperial Oil, Esso. Musical chairs are happening there. The person that's now assigned our case hasn't got back to me, and you know, issues like that. So I'll leave it up to council whether you want to proceed with the meeting this Saturday or reschedule.
I'm good for the following week, and we can make it that way, but otherwise I can't.
What is the next one? Is it the 21st?
First,
How about for the 21st, Committee of the Whole?
I'm not available for the 21st.
how about the 22nd? No, that weekend
It's
is.
Sunday, you godless heathen.
No. The following weekend, probably, yep. So, but, what's everybody else's schedule for?
The 21st, I have something in the evening, but otherwise, it might be tight, but I guess others can't make the 21st. 28th, I'm open.
28th works for me as well.
Anybody else?
I'm open to all three, so whichever is the majority.
No, when you're at work, doesn't matter when,
What's that?
doesn't matter when.
Well, yeah.
Or is it-
It's the-
You work the 20th.
What works for you, James? What day?
Saturdays don't work for me, that's the thing, this is what I said when we first scheduled this, so. I mean, if it works, if a Saturday works for everybody else, then fine, but
there
one of
any,
the highlights.
is there any way we can squish this into an evening, or would that be too long?
Yeah, we'd be here till midnight.
Remember, one of the things we talked about is just having a fresh mind, right? I mean, evenings,
Yeah.
it's a very thinking.
A
28th.
lot would object.
Well, just
You
as
think
I
so?
alluded to, we will be scheduling budget meetings, a couple of budget meetings, and, you know, so that's another consideration, you know, do you want to deal with the budget meetings? There may be some fallout, given the organizational meeting, not necessarily with this council, but with the county council in terms of reps on that committee, and who the new reps may be, and council may want to have some strategy sessions about that in particular, particularly as it relates to the ICF, the Recreation Committee. Those are the two hot spots, so to speak.
When's their organizational meeting?
I haven't confirmed when theirs are, but it has to occur before the end of the month.
So where are we at with the 28th?
I'll have to see, I booked the 21st off for the committee of the whole, so I'll have to see if I can switch that. But I won't know until tomorrow, or until Thursday.
So do we want to do a email thing where we can say we're available?
Or do
Leave
we
it open.
wanna skip October and book something in November? Even
Well, that
though-
would be my suggestion to council, that council reconsider it on the 24th council meeting. By then, we'll probably have some tentative budget dates and other meetings that may have to occur prior to the end of the year. But it's going to be, with the budget and other stuff happening, it may be a bit tight.
Thoughts, anybody? Okay, so let's just table this till the 24th, the council meeting on the 24th, and we'll set a date then.
Okay, so no meeting of the whole. On the 21st, okay.
Through the chair, preferable if we had a motion to cancel the meeting on the 24th, because it is on our public calendar.
Okay,
I'll make the
Or
motion.
sorry, on the 14th, I stand corrected.
I'll make the motion that the upcoming committee of the whole meeting be cancelled. Rescheduled, okay.
All right, so we have a motion, all those in favor?
okay, just hold on here. You were saying the 14th?
Yes, yes, that's when it's scheduled for, the 14th.
Scheduled for the 14th, but we can't.
I had it scheduled for the 21st.
It's on the calendar as the 14th, so.
That is correct.
Oh, right, so.
Okay, so to recap, we are
Okay.
rescheduling we are tabling
Yes,
the schedule for the tentative date for committee of the whole until our regular council of,
meeting
on the
24th,
24th.
yes.
That's when we will set the date.
Yes, okay.
All those in favor? Motion is carried.
That's the end of the agenda. That's it.
CEO, anything else?
Before we close this off? Okay, so then meeting is adjourned.